What's up, everyone? It's Mitch from RespectOrigin.com, back with the RMR Podcast today, joined with special guest Tony Bones of Valley Pure. How you doing today, Tony?
Good, brother. Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for hopping on, man. Especially on this holiday. Being in business, I feel like there is no such thing as a true holiday. You pick and choose your days a little bit, but working probably every day, huh?
That's it, bro. That's it. No time off. You know that. It's always a go.
No doubt, man. So with the start of all these episodes, I always start with our guest origin story around cannabis. So I'm just kind of curious, like both personally and professionally, kind of when you got involved with cannabis.
Yeah, so young age, you know what I mean? I was out there, messing around. It was probably about 15, 16, started to mess with cannabis. I actually had an accident, I broke all my face, you know what I mean? My nose, my cheekbones, everything. So I was having trouble sleeping. So I started using it, found out it worked really well, and it just kept on growing. And then as it grew, I wanted to kind of bring it to people, and help everybody. I got in the 215 days early, what I'm saying? I did that for a long time until it went recreational. And once recreation hit, we brought it into the rec market and started going retail. So for me, it's been, over 20 years. It's something that I'm passionate about and I love doing. So that's it.
How is that change going from 215 days to recreational? What was that transitionary period like for yourself?
Man, it changes so much, like from, the 215 days to where, compassion was everything. And, it felt like everybody was, helping each other and that type of deal to recreational to where it turned into this big competition everywhere, and it's hard, man. I got to have good relationships and good people. So for me, it was a kind of a shell shocking sense too, to go from something that was curated being, put together as a helping infrastructure, to now it's just kind of being out there again and looking at everybody and saying, man, who's good partners, who's somebody you want to work with, and how's the longevity looking this, So it was kind of a little different, it was definitely a change.
Absolutely, and I think it's been important, or I think it's important for a lot of people that were there from those days to make sure that that heart and soul is still impacted in the industry, whether it's at a professional standpoint or just individual contribution to where this industry is headed. Um, where or when did you start exactly at Valley Pure, where you're now VP of Sales and Retail? But when did you first start with that crew?
Yeah, so it was into 2017. We started to come together. We kind of got the name and everything. We are looking at cities we want to be in. Where we wanted to kind of land our feet and start as a home base. Man, it was hard. We're from the Central Valley. We're not too far north to be north. You know what I mean? And we're not too far south to be south. So we're like in the center. So we started looking at all the cities around. And we landed in Woodlake, California. It's a rural town. It's only about 7,700 people. They were looking for something to build infrastructure with and create some tax revenue. So we approached them and sat down, and they were a really good group, really open, forthcoming, helping us get through the process. So once we landed there, it was kind of like, okay, we got the bookwork done. You know what I mean? Now it's time to put it in action. We built the building, did the whole thing. That place was super successful. It's still going today. So, it just when it celebrated its fourth year. I mean, we're happy to still have it. So that was really where we landed. 2017 is when Valley Pure came about. Back then, I was just doing district manager stuff. And as it kind of grew over the years, I kind of excelled. And seen where my niche was, with the people and starting these things and building them out from scratch. So now I've worked my way all the way up. I run all the retail. I do all the cultivation sales. You know what I mean? I'm part of the marketing team. So it's always evolving for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some tips that you could give out there to some people that want to work their way up, like working from that district manager position up to a VP level? And obviously, you've been able to work alongside the company growth, so I know opportunities have grown through that. But what are some of those like keen things that have been a part of that growth?
Yeah, man, to show up, that's the main thing. You got to show up. If you're not there, you know what I mean, you're going to get missed. I never, let the grass grow under my feet or anything like that. I was always in city council meetings to state meetings, to lobbyist meetings, and then back to the shows. The cultures for me, I go to everything. Any show that's popping, the Hall of Flowers, the High Times events, anything of the Weed Con, all that stuff. I really stay tapped into the market. So for me, the best advice I can give is be ready to work. Show up and make sure you do your education. Like things change every day, especially in this market. The laws and compliance and everything. It's crazy. How it changes. So for me, that's where I really found I like to study on it. I like to find out what was the next thing, what was going to happen. Where's labeling going? Something that nobody thinks about. What about packaging? Where's it going to happen at? How can we brand and market this? So for me, it's just about showing up. And staying educated. And I push that to everybody. I always tell my crew. I want to see everybody graduate and grow, whether it's in the company or outside the company. But make sure you put in that time. And you really stay focused. It's easy to get lost in this industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with Valley Pure, we were just talking a second ago. 2017 started out in Woodlake, now at 4 dispensary locations and cultivation. What was kind of the growth curve in terms of like adding a new location and the expansion of the business over that time since 2017?
Yeah, so we've been able to add them, pretty much every year. It was kind of crazy. Woodlake ran into about mid 19, and we got the second store, Farmersville, open. That one's going probably a good 4 or 5 months, and we got the notion from a few other cities that were looking. So we went to add that. We actually added Lindsay in February, and then we added Lemoore in June of 2020. So we opened two during the pandemic, which was super crazy. So it was like we thought it was going to be a slower start, but as it came on and we were able to scale these things, we made sure that everything was, tight knit, and it was pretty good. We actually have 5 total dispensaries right now
Hmm.
active. We have one in the Central Coast up in Ben Lomond, Central Coast Wellness, and we just got the Tulare license, for the sixth one. It's actually going to be open in about 90 days, so that's going to come online quick. So it seems like the more we've done, the quicker they happen, and the more often they happen now. So it's been a good thing.
And what's it like acquiring, a new or building out a new retail? Obviously, you guys have built something going at one location, tapped in with the consumers there, and kind of understand that micro community. What goes into replicating that into new areas while still keeping it under one brand?
Yeah, that's kind of the key, and it's really working in that community. We kind of see it because when we open up a location, where we're at, we have all these people come from different regions and all around, so we get that feedback and we get to talk to them and kind of hear what they would want, and they might be from Lindsay, and they might have started out with us in Woodlake, and they were giving us our ideas back then. So we were collecting that info from everybody, kind of seeing where everybody wants and what everybody wants to see. The Tulare location is going to be totally different from anything we did before, and at the same time, it's exciting. It's kind of scary as well, because we're going to take a different approach. But it seems that's what that area wants. They want a little bigger store. They want a little more action to be able to see some things and have some bigger events there, which is always key for us. We want to grow with it. So the main thing is just tapping in with the community, making sure that everybody's getting their feedback to us and what they want, what they like. Turning the naysayers into believers, and just showing everybody that we're good business.
And I hear that. And with all these retail outlets, obviously you've had a lot of work or a lot of time looking at different brands, different products, obviously working with the bud tenders, working with the community, getting the feedback from patients and customers. What are some of the brands you feel like in California that it's not necessarily maybe the best brand, but are people coming in and requesting by brand, like brands that are recognized by consumers, that there's an obvious demand where it's like, I have to carry this because enough consumers just demand it? Like, what are some of those brands that come to your mind?
Yeah, for sure. Alien Labs, you know what I mean? Like that's just one of those ones that, any of the connected Alien Lab stuff, like people love that stuff. They want it all the time. Stizzy for sure. They're killing it. Those guys are doing great things, Maven Genetics, I mean, that's one that's really hit the mark hard, I mean, since we started carrying them and they kind of picked up, in their production. Everybody wants those guys. Cookie still has a good following, you know what I mean? And those guys are doing a lot of cool things, a lot of new genetics over there. So that's one, that comes in. And then, heavy hitters is definitely probably, one of the most sought after that we always hear that people are always coming in. They always want it. They always want to get it. It's usually the stizzy people, what I mean, coming in, or heavy hitters. The cart
Yeah.
game is split between those two, and they're battling for it. So I mean, those guys, all come to mind, when I start thinking about top sellers, right now, who's coming in, what they're asking for.
And what do you think some of the, like, what are some of the things? Obviously, some of those guys have different product categories or different audience bases. But what are some of those things that brands or that people like about brands? Like, what is it about the cannabis brand that makes a consumer attracted to a brand?
It's really touching base on that quality product. Some of it, is definitely going to be the marketing end, right? The niche things, everybody what they're seeing, what's going on in the market, what's hot, what's not, I mean, that type of deal. But quality is what's kind of separating everybody, apart right now. I mean, you're seeing like Maven Genetics take a big spot, you know what I mean? Because they have some really good quality, you know, and some people have lacked off and slacked there a little bit. You see Cookies making a big change, revamping the whole menu, you know, going across the board to bring back that, you know, Cookies quality that everybody's looking for. You know, Stizzy's moving into solventless carts, you know, and things like this. So you're really seeing that quality push it the most, you know, like we tell everybody, there's a price point for everybody, you know,
Mhm.
if you're a price point person, we can get you there. But if you're a quality person, you got to look into some of these brands, you know, because these guys are taking the extra time to make sure the quality's in the jar, in the bag, you know what I mean, in the cart, you know, that type of deal. Friendly Farms does a really good cart, you know, I mean, everything. We love Buddies does a good cart, concentrate, you know, I mean, like all that stuff. You know, these people come in and they know they're getting quality, you know, just getting priced right. So I think the quality is where it's really separating people apart again this year.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you definitely named some of the heavy hitters and some of the guys I like. As far as the flower, a lot of the flower I like to consume, man. Coming guys that are consistently pressing new flavors, and
Yes.
that's another thing that being on the retail front of having to stock just kind of like an endless supply of new strains. It never sets. As soon as there's a popular strain, it's getting deconstructed, reconstructed, pheno hunted all up and down.
Oh
You
my
know,
God, bro.
how do you approach kind of from a retail perspective staying on top of all these strains and helping the consumer not get like overwhelmed with just consistent more and more?
It's a never endless game, like you said, man. So like really, I try to stay tapped in. You know, like I said, I really do these shows, and I really am in the market. You know, what I mean, I'm always testing and visiting cultivations and things. You know, but as far as procuring the menu, man, like I would like to say that it's 100% all the time, but sometimes it's like, man, I got like 16 new things to go check out, you know, and find out like what's hot. So I really tap in with my bud tenders, you know, and some of my people that are in the stores. You know, I got friends all across the state, multi-state operators, that type of deal. So you kind of can tap in a little bit here and kind of hear what the streets are talking about, what people are seeing. You know, when the new phenos break, of course, right? As soon as somebody tries it, it's like wildfire. You're hearing it, you know. And my main thing is trying it myself. You know, if I can get in there and try it, get that, you know, good R&D on it and find out something that's nice, you know what I mean? Share with one of my friends, you know, respect my region guys, you know, it just goes a long way, bro. We keep it all in the circle and everybody kind of stays tapped in. But it's probably one of the hardest things, man, with retail is menu procurement, you know, because it changes so much. You can't get stagnant. You can't flood it. You know what I mean? If you flood it, it sits. If it sits, it's not moving. You know, the whole flow slows down. So I mean, that's one of the harder things in the game, but it's one of the funner ones too. I think once you tap into it and get it going.
Yeah, I think that's something the industry doesn't get enough credit for from like both the producer, the cultivator standpoint, and the retail standpoint. To what you just said is like making sure shit doesn't get flooded, but also trying to make sure there's enough inventory to satisfy a part of demand. Because a flavor can get played out real quick, but it's also just due to how this crop, the agriculture cycle of this crop, it's hard to also if you find something that's a winner, it might take a little bit to replicate it and keep it in stock. So it takes a lot, I feel like, to keep that flow that you're talking about.
Bro, more than people know, right? They think, oh, it's just easy. It comes. I'm like, man, like there's strains that don't hit, you know, like there's
Mm.
some that just we don't get because by the time it happens, you know what I mean, it's over. You know what I mean? And they go on to the next, you know, like Alien Labs does their whole pheno hunt, right? They issue out X amount of jars and everybody tests them and then they pick from that. So it's like somebody might like one of those that it gets lost, you know, and it happens, you know. So right now I think the cultivators, you know, the most underrated, man. Like these guys pull so many, you know, heat strains and they get so much stuff cracking. And it's like some stuff that people see and they're like, man, this is amazing. There was something better that didn't even make it out, you know? So it's one of them things, man. Like procurement's crazy, but I'm with you. Like, I don't think they get enough credit, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot to get out there and compete, and some people are definitely competing. And I think as consumers ourselves, it's also nice to use appreciate appreciate what people put out there, man. I'm a fan of it. Um, on the branding side, right? If someone's been around cannabis a long time, obviously before there was like a brand or a graphic jar. What are some of those things that you feel like have helped and hindered from a packaging standpoint of moving to this new form of consumer packaged goods for cannabis?
Man, for me, packaging's the biggest headache, right? Like, I mean, it's just so layered now and it's got to be so many different ways. But, you know, marketing, I mean, marketing from it, you know, that visual aspect, you know, some of these jars and these bags and even these containers are getting way crazy, and you wouldn't even think about it, when you think of these little packages and stuff like that, really creating it. But some people are niche buyers, like they see something cool and they got to have it, and Flav came out with the little Zippo disposable that they had for a little while, right? Didn't even hit the market like that, but people knew about it and they wanted it, You're seeing a lot of these crazy packaging coming out now because you have a lot of these big brand marketing companies coming into the space saying, man, we can make this a little better. We can make it interesting for somebody. It's not just about buying the product now. Now they're buying something they can sell on their shelf, right? You got Alien Labs with the Misfits bag. You know what I mean? You got, Hashbone with the clown face, packaging. It's like these things hit to certain people, So with the packaging, for me, I mean, there's a ton of labels and everything's got to go on there, right? It's got to be specific, certain. But I mean, some of the packaging is getting cool. I wish we didn't have to use so many layers of it, but I think at the same time, now they're kind of making it a little more active with the consumer, QR codes and things like this, things that really bring people in and get them an experience more than just buying it, open it, and throw it away. So packaging is one of those things. I think it's going to be changing for a good while, but it's interesting to see where it's going.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, man. We've seen a lot of changes, and it's as some things stand out, some things tend to blend in the mix. Obviously over there at Valley Pure, you guys are vertically integrated with cultivation as well. What's been the approach of not only having retail but also having in-house products?
Man, I mean, it's a game changer. Like that's one thing we get to go and source the stuff we want, that hits the shelf. I mean, we're about to launch our carts, live resin carts that we're going to be launching here in the next few weeks. We got almost, I'd say about 16 different strains right now, that we have on the Valley Pure brand side, So being fully integrated for us has been a blessing. We've been able to kind of look back at things that worked really well and say, let's bring this in and try it. And some of them worked and some of them didn't, and it's good to have that. We have that feedback from being in the retail space for so long, with the cultivation coming online. Now we're at, 75,000 square feet with 3 tiers. I mean, we can cover a lot of ground, right? Like, so we can supply ourselves even in those bad times, when things are kind of bad and rough, when the big flood happened and everybody was kind of worried about quality, and just what was coming in their bags or their jars, right? We were able to go back to the drawing board and say, look, we're not putting anything in that's not A. If it's not A plus, it's not going to go in the bag. We'll work with it. We'll do something else. We really procured a menu that was going to sell, and make sense. So for us being fully integrated, I think it's been one of the blessings. We've been able to source more material that we need and then also test the market, show some of these strains and show some of these cultivars, that people really didn't take for granted, and they're like, oh, it was okay. Now we launch in the Valley Pure bag. They get it. They love it. So it's like being fully integrated and having that option to be able to go back and say, this is something else we want. This is something else we don't want. That's been the biggest blessing in disguise. It's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a lot, the sales inside of it, back into the retail, like I'm one person, right? Like, and you know how this goes. I mean, we wear many hats, so I'm more than happy to do it, but that's been one of the more blessings for me is to go back and say, all right, this worked for us really well. This didn't. Let's put this in. Let's pull this out. Let's look for the new stuff. What's hot, what's happening right now. Let's try a few new ones. So being vertically integrated is key. I think that's what's helping Valley Pure stay sustainable and above board right now.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it's a way to kind of like almost like you said, kind of like navigate risk too, right? Regardless of what's going on in the supply chain, you guys at least have something you have full control over in house.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and you know how these things go. It's everybody's trying to get the margins up and be right. You're not always going to get the freshest batch, right? And that's not actually the brand's fault, right? Or the cultivator. It's the process, right? Everything has to go through testing, the co-packers, hit the distribution, make it to the market. The average customer doesn't realize that, no matter what, it's usually 30 days before your product hits the market, no matter what. And that's a quick turnaround, right? Like some of these things, 2 months, 3 months, just depends what happened in the whole thing. For us, being able to go straight from the farm literally to a 3-day test and a 3-day package and be fresh a week out of cure to the shelf, it's key, man. It's key for the brand, and I think more people are seeing that and they're trying to, build that infrastructure to be vertically integrated to kind of bring that to the market as well.
And then are you guys also wholesaling your flower to other stores as well, or just running it all through you guys?
We did in the beginning kind of as the launch it to get the flow going, now the stores eat up, honestly, man, 85% of what we can cultivate, so there's not much that does get sold out. I mean, if it does need to be, we will, to move the product. But for right now, the stores eat up a ton of it. And it's just growing, the appetite's going. We just got on spring big with the text blast and the emails and tapping into that side of the marketing, a little more direct. And, we're up about 22% in sales on that stuff right now. So, I mean, we're going to see, a big mark where we're just eating all that crop up to the stores now.
Yeah, yeah, that's man, that's great. That's great. And you said so some of that is also you guys get to figure out what to curate in-house based on the sales data of just what's selling at the store then, correct?
Yeah. Some of that data, that we see in certain strains and what's coming back from the retail side, that allows us to go searching, right? We go and pull a couple strains that hit really well, and just weren't available to the customers for a very long time through other brands. And we were able to bring those back. We launched the Pink Runch Cross that we have, that right now is just killing it and everybody loves it. So it's one of those ones we want to make a staple and kind of keep in our brand and keep it there because the market tells us they love it.
And then what else? Like, what are some of the most popular product types that you guys see? I mean, obviously, some of the brands that you were mentioning earlier, flower brands. I know we all know kind of flowers king. That's what the bulk of things that are sold. But what are some of the standout kind of product categories away from flower that you guys see at retail?
Man, right now the cartridge game is crazy. You're seeing a ton that come out. Right, Stizzy's king. Like there's no doubt about it. They're always changing and moving different ways. To keep ahead of the game, but. One of the smaller ones that I've seen that came out that have really hit the market really good is Ursa. They're doing like a liquid diamond cart there that's really clean and a lot of people like. The dab woods are hitting really hard on the disposable end for full grams. We're seeing that kind of push into the market really well. It's been a big push on the cart side, on our end, and then the edibles has been another one. We're just seeing the gummy game fly, right? Wild came in and kind of knocked a few people around. Flay is still staying very admirable up there in the top range, with all the new cross things they're doing. They do a sleep gummy now. We're seeing fruits pushing into a lot of big markets. They move really well. But I think our biggest one right now is going to be the pre-rolls. Pre-rolls is the infused pre-roll game is nuts, right? And Jeter was pushing through that thing, and so many people are trying to copy them with different things. Now you have a bunch of different brands following it, but I mean, they kind of jumped to the top, really fast. Now they're kind of getting pushed around, for whether it's quality or quantity that they're getting, but at the same time, they did a really good thing. So the pre-roll mark for me is where we're seeing a lot of big expansion right now. A lot of people doing the donuts, the hash infused, rosin infused donut rolls, I know Punch is killing it with theirs. We had to sit down with those guys and tried a bunch and they're doing really well. So, I mean, pre-rolls is one of them things, that I think people like. It's a grab and go type style thing that they can just take with them. So it's pushing really heavy, so I'd say the pre-rolls and the vape carts is something that's kind of gaining a little bit more traction, right now as anything else.
Absolutely. And what do you feel like when someone buys a pre-roll or a vape, you feel like that's all they're buying, or that their cart usually has a couple items in there?
Yeah, we're seeing, these carts 3 and 4 items. Most people aren't coming in picking up 1, 2 things. There's triples and quadruples in there for sure. We got a guy that came this morning, right? Like he's big, edible guy, doesn't really get too much in the flower or anything out there. He left with the cart, he left with the vape, he left with the pre-roll and his edibles. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, he was like, yeah, it's Memorial Day. I'm going, I'm having a fun time. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's perfect, So we're seeing those spins, and then the average right now is up. You're usually in that $68 to $82 range. We're seeing 87, $90 average tickets right now. So it's up there a little bit.
Yeah. Getting ready. I mean, I don't blame him getting ready for Memorial Day, man. He's out here.
They get to celebrate, they got to do something.
Yeah, I could dig it, man. I could dig it. We talked about a little bit earlier of just having these different locations, but what kind of goes into from like the management side of just making sure that customer experience is the same at every location and training, right? Because you got different areas. Again, you have one brand, different communities, but different stores, different staff. What are some of the elements you guys kind of put in for that consistent experience and consistent training with the staff?
Yeah, the customer service is huge, especially when we're moving from different areas. Everybody expects you to be like a Walmart or a Chili's or anything like that. Everything's supposed to be the same, right? Like, so they want to see that dialed in. For us, it's really about connecting, make sure we're meeting and greeting everybody, making sure they take care of them in between. And if they do have a question or they do have an experience that they need to talk about, let them get it out. For me on the management side, that's the first thing I teach my guys, right? Like, without these people, we won't be here. And that's just the bottom facts, right? Doesn't matter how good I am, doesn't matter how good my managers are, my bud tenders are. If the people aren't coming through the door, we don't exist. So they're the number one priority, and I teach that to them, to make sure that the guy that comes in, he might not be in the greatest mood. He might not know everything, but it's our responsibility to take care of him and make sure he gets treated right. He gets greeted. His service is above and beyond. And then the time he goes to take off, they either give him a handshake or a nice good goodbye. He makes it out the door. And it could have started off as a bad experience. We see it all the time. People come in and nobody knows what anybody's going through. So somebody might feel a certain way. They didn't say it right. They didn't hand it to them right, or any of that stuff could change it into a bad situation. And we try to eliminate that from the beginning. On the management side, I tell my guys, right, we're here to support the bud tenders and the sales reps, and the sales reps and everybody else support the customer, right? And then it goes vice versa. The customer comes to me, I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll make sure I take care of them, have a conversation, make sure they feel 100% treated and welcome, in our facilities and establishments, because like I said, without them, we can't exist. So my biggest thing is the customer service, and it is one of the hardest things, right, to teach people. People all comes from different walks of life, and they have different situations, and everybody handles things different. But from us, we kind of dial it back down to the basics, right? Like, I don't know what you're going through on your daily. You don't know what I'm going through. So if you walk in and you're expecting to have great service, I want to give you great service. That way when you leave, maybe your day's a little bit better, man. Maybe you got exactly what you needed, and you walked out the door a little happy. So we don't want anybody to have a bad experience, and I think that's really what we cater to is the customer, making sure that they're good all the way across the board, make sure when they go to any one of our locations, they get greeted. Any one of our locations, they can ask a question. Like, we have customers all the time. Well, you ran out of this product here. Can you check it, see if it's on another one? Sure. We'll call the next location, make sure. And it's like that across the board. So that's really where we're trying to get to dial it down to, is having good customer service and making sure everybody gets that good experience at every location.
Putting people first, and there's not a lot of dispensaries that take the route of really putting the customer service at the forefront. A lot of people say that, but it's truly like attached to anyone in any sort of hospitality service, anything like that, right? The consumers, while you're there, you got to put them first to really just dial in that process and give them the best experience.
Man, people forget it, like they do, honestly, like it, and it's easy, right? The world's going through a ton, everybody's going through crazy things, but like I tell them, like when we come in, it's like check your feelings at the door, make sure you're good, because we're gonna go in here, we're gonna make it a good day, no matter what happens, no matter how crazy it gets, we're gonna have a good day, and we got to portray that to the customer and make sure they know. So it's really, that customer service, and it's one thing that I think that some dispensaries have kind of lost, and I don't knock nobody or anything like that, but I would really like to see it, brought back into the culture side of it, respecting everybody and treating everybody right, and not just treating them as a dollar or a ticket sell right as they come through the door, making sure that they're really, really engaged and they get what they need.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's what separates success and I mean, not even success, but like consumer loyalty, right? And then that's everything in this business. I mean, in any retail business. We were talking about earlier about going to Hall of Flowers. Obviously, I just saw you out there a couple of weeks ago. When it goes to traveling to these events, what are some of the things that you look to kind of take away with in relation to your career and stuff? What are you trying to identify? What are you looking for? What do you look to gain while being at these events?
So for me, it's always good to connect with everybody. It's hard to get a face to face with a lot of people. We're all in different areas. We're traveling, north to south constantly. So for me, like these events, like when I go to, is really about touching base with the brands. Especially on the upper end, right? The management, the ownership. Making sure that we're being a good partner. Servicing any accounts that they have. On the back end, and just like we want their service, right? Making sure they got takeover days. We're making sure that that nothing got lost in translation. It's really easy to be doing things, get 3, 4, or 5 months down the road. You haven't talked to nobody. You haven't got to see each other. You run into each other at these events. So it's really time to cater that relationship and make sure that everybody's good, make sure that, nothing got missed, on the back end as far as, hey, the new launch that came out, the new brand that they're going through, a new product, I love going to the events, because I get to see everything, and I get to see if there's anything new. I get to see what people are still doing, if they're doing it better, or if they've improved it at all. sometimes you go to them and you see the same thing, and it's like, man, you wish you would just get a little bit different for the brand, and it's a good time to have the conversation. Hey, man, I'd like to see if you guys could do this. I'd like to launch a different product. We did a new formulation with another vendor here last week. We wanted something a little stronger in their tincturing. We asked for it. We've been asking for it, and it was good. They came through with it. So the events are really good. To get information about what everybody's got and either coming out. And it's really good just to keep your relationship whole. You know what I mean? I get to run into cool people, right? Me and you run into each other. We catch each other out there. It's one of those things where I just like seeing the people, and getting to connect directly back with the relationships of the brands and the companies. So for me, it's all about just being there, and having that chance to touch base.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And for me personally, I think it's in people in like a business setting, but outside of the usual business setting, right? Like I always have talked to people about, like, there's even a regular client or working relationship you can have with someone where you deal with each other on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, but there's so much structure to it. Even throwing out a random idea kind of fucks up the flow of how you guys move, and you just said you spend 3 minutes together outside of that usual situation where you already have that rapport. Then, like you're saying, you can just kind of throw things out there in just a real casual way. And sometimes a lot of shit can spawn from that. And it's not like it's inappropriate. It just doesn't fit the natural flow of what you're doing. So kind of breaking that flow allows this like ability for new ideas, I feel like, to come from it.
It does 100%, man. You sit down to break bread, you know what I mean? And ideas start flowing, you know what I mean? And it always seems like you said, and once you get outside of that a little bit, everybody's just a little more comfortable, right? Like nobody wants to step on nobody's toes and nobody wants to say the wrong thing, but when you kind of get out to the show, you step back, you know what I mean? Everybody eats at the same truck, right? Like the sitting there is the same for everybody. So you see all these people that you might not, run into or might not want to talk to, about certain things. And you're just a little more open, and that's what I like about the events, man. I like, being able to go and have the, constructive criticism back and forth about certain things and it'll not be a big deal, right? It's not like we're pulling them from the shelf or they're not selling to us no more. You know what I mean? We're just conversating, we're going to have a good idea. And if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. But at the end of the day, we can still be friends and get along and make business for everybody.
Which one are some of your favorite events to attend?
Definitely Hall of Flowers. You know what I mean? One of my more favorites. I just went to the Green Street. That was really cool. You know what I mean? Went and did that whole event. Super dope out there. I think they're going to have some cool stuff, going on down there. WeedCon's always been cool. You know what I mean? I really like that one as well. MJ BizCon's always a good one too. I like to go see what they're innovating and coming out with. I feel like every year we go and there's, 50% of the same stuff, but then you're always going to find a few new ones, right? Somebody's doing something different. They upgrade the machines. I mean, it's getting the bigger, being a bigger one. And then probably one of my favorite ones too is the Emerald Cup. I love the Emerald Cup, everything they do, all the stuff they're putting forth out there. You know what I mean? Those guys push a ton for our regulations and, just putting together good events, So those would probably be my top few that I got.
Okay. And then I got one more personal for you is what's the hottest strain you've been smoking on this year? It doesn't necessarily have to be a brand new one, but what's the most gas strain you've been smoking on here in 2022?
Atomic Apple, bro. Atomic Apple. Alien Labs Atomic Apple. Hands down. You know what I mean? Hands down.
Okay. I think I seen that Hall of Flowers. I don't think I tasted it yet, so I got to get my hands on that.
Bro, I got you. Come out my way. I got you.
All right. Yeah. And then next time I'm down from Washington, I got to slide.
Dinner's on me.
Got you. What else does Valley Pure got in stock for the rest of 2022?
Man, expansion. Expansion. We got that 6th license. It just went through. It's done, solidified. That store's going to open in 90 days. There's 2 more right behind that, probably within a 40 to 60 mile radius. So hopefully have 8 active dispensaries by the end of the year. We just we broke ground on the 3rd cultivation. The 2nd cultivation is probably about 50% complete. So we're running those, huge and as fast as possible, to get everything we can. We want to expand in the space pretty quickly, So for us right now, it's just about building out the cultivations and adding more retail. We did activate our manufacturing license, to bring that on and do some infused pre-rolls and stuff. We have the carts coming, and we have our distribution, So for us, it's really expansion this year. That's the name of the game. We just want to be number one. We got a lot of people competing. There's a lot of other big guys in the market, but we kind of solidified ourselves in the Valley, and we just want to expand from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said expansion, and then you back that up with with quite a bit of expansion there. So
It's live, bro. It's live. Like this is happening every day, man. I just visited the new Tulare dispensary coming on. They're getting that thing rolling. You know what I mean? I rolled through the cultivation. I mean, they're siting the building. All the plumbing's in, electric's going. So I mean, it's real, man. It's happening fast.
yeah, that's a lot of growth, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on here today, Tony, and chatting with us on the podcast. Anyone looking for more information, valleypure.net. Anything else you want to plug before you get up out of here?
No, man. I love you guys, man. You guys always taking care of everybody, man. I appreciate your time and everything today. Thanks for having me. Hope to do it again soon.
100, man. Thank you very much. This is